Thanks for letting me crash your daddy door tonight, man.
No worries, mate. It's going to be a good evening, I think.
How much have you had to drink?
I've been having... Apparently, whiskey is really good for getting the baby to go to sleep.
Not when you drink it, man. Your wife's out. What are you doing?
That actually does make more sense. I read it on the internet. Maybe you can take it for a little bit. I don't feel like...
Give me her. Jesus.
In fact, I got a feeder, actually. Just latch her under this nipple over here. Breastfeeding is one of the healthiest things you can do for a child.
Yeah, the woman does.
As a father, I know what's best for my kid.
Oh
God.
But you don't produce milk.
Yeah, that's true as well. I tell you what, I'm reading a lot of stuff on the internet. Maybe we should talk to someone about effective parenting. Tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. Oh, God.
God, yes. Here, I'll put her to bed.
Thanks, man.
Let's get to it. How hard this was to research and try and sound genuinely like I was doing work. I don't know how this is going.
Hey, Wade.
Hey, Byrne.
So I thought we'd do an episode on parenting, because did you know I'm a parent recently?
Oh, God. As a father, let me just tell you that you need to put pants on when you're walking around my house.
In fairness, there are a lot of holes in those underpants. Not in the most flattering places.
No. Well, especially when I'm practicing my squats.
No, but shit, imagine all the advice I've been giving you recently, right?
Yeah.
The amount of advice that's out there for new parents is astounding. There is so much out there.
And as well, mothers, they're just trying to do the best job for their kids. They're not going out there going, with this kid, I'm going to do such a shit job just to see what happens. They're actually...
one kid is a control?
Yeah, one kid is a control. The first one turned out all right, but the second one, Jesus Christ. But...
Weren't you the second born?
I was the second born, yeah. I was kind of like, that'll do. I was the that'll do child.
Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough. That's enough about caring and going to performances and things like that.
So in this episode, I thought I'd go through my 5 favourite facts that have been sent to on the mothers group that my wife's on, and then later on we'll do an interview with Nat Newell, who's recently produced a movie called Science
I love
Mums.
Nat. She's so lovely.
Yeah, she's great.
She's so lovely.
So we've watched her new movie about Science Mums, and it talks more about, I'm going to go with a more funny pseudo-science side of thing. Nat's going to talk about the serious shit like non-vaxxers and that kind of stuff, the scientific mums on that side.
Okay.
Where shit gets real.
Cool.
So the first woo, I suppose you'd say, comes from before the kid is born.
All right.
On one of the mothers groups, my wife sent me this thing that a person claimed that the gravitational pull of the moon can pull on the sac of fluid in your placenta, and because of this, more babies are actually born during full moons.
What a crock of shit. No, honestly though, you can solve this. You can solve this with like first year physics university equations.
I'm pretty sure you could solve this in 13th year old science classroom, because the phase of the moon doesn't change the amount of gravity. A full moon doesn't have more gravity than a fucking half moon or a new moon. It's the same amount of gravity.
But the thing is as well, like where the moon is and its distance towards you does affect. There is a gravitational change in the distance. If the moon is on the other side of the Earth, it has less pull on you. However, one of the problems is that there's such a small amount of force, and this is a problem. If you look at the equation, and for our listeners you can look it up, it's Newton's universal law of gravitation. It's just Fg equals Newton's gravitational constant times both the masses, so the product of both masses divided by the distance squared. Now, that distance squared down the bottom, it means it's inversely proportional to, which means that if you go, say, twice as far away, okay, so 2 times distance, then it's 4 times less gravitational attraction.
Yeah.
So if you look at the...
4 times away is 16 times less gravitational
Exactly.
attraction.
So, and it keeps going up by the product. And so what happens is that you get to a point, like say you got the mass of the moon, and then you've got the mass of a human being, or even the placenta fluid. It's so small because you're dividing by the distance, which is hundreds of thousands of meters, and so the force on it is so small because all you're doing is you're timesing these two numbers together, divided by this ridiculously huge number that's squared.
It is, but this belief though is Dead set. It's ingrained. There's nurses and things that swear that there are more babies born during full moons.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, but it has nothing to do with gravity.
I was about to say, you look at the bias of it. It's like saying, people go crazy when it's nighttime because they're lunatics. It's like, well, are you sure people just aren't able to see better during a full moon?
Yeah.
So more crimes are committed?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there have been lots of studies, and studies on this actually go back to the 50s. Now, all of the studies since the 50s basically say, no, there is no correlation between the phase of the moon and the birth rate. In fact, there's a couple of studies that said there was a 1% increase or 1% decrease following or preceding a full moon, nothing around the full moon. There was an astrophysics professor from Appalachian State University who compiled data.
Where's Appalachian?
That's like on the eastern seaboard of the US. There's a big mountain range down there. It's all right. It's a geology thing. I understand you don't know where the Appalachians are.
No.
It's a mountain range down the eastern seaboard of the US, New York side. It's an amazing trail. Some good bushwalks through there, mate. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to never going there.
Anyway, this guy from Appalachian State University got data from NASA for over 20 years. So 20 years worth of full moon data, and then he compared it to all the births during that time in the US, and there was 50 million births during this time. He removed the things like cesareans and elective births and things like that that are going to happen at that time anyway. And again, he found no correlation between birth rate and moon phases.
My God.
So it's pretty definitive. Birth has nothing to do with the phase of the moon. Right?
Who would have thought?
I don't know. My wife got into a lengthy argument with this woman about that, and all my wife kept saying was citations,
you and your wife
please.
Are the same.
Yeah, I love her. Shout out.
It's just, you spend hours arguing with people online. I'll walk past Byrne in the office and it'll be like, dude, you look very tense. And he's like, God, this fucking person online just doing this. I'm like, all right.
I've read 20 articles on this shit now. It's not working. All right.
Okay.
The next one I thought was quite funny is a woman went outside and she took a photo of her and her little babies. This is after the birth now. Little baby standing barefoot in the snow. And her argument was that walking around outside in the snow barefoot actually helps boost immunity. Now, you're giving me a weird look.
And frostbite, I'm assuming.
Well, I hadn't looked into this, and I sort of broke it down. So I broke it down into firstly, should kids wear shoes? Okay, that's the first part. So walking around barefoot. Kids walking around barefoot, is that cool? Then I broke down whether they should be...
I thought you were asking me a question.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to ask you. You're not even a dad.
No, I'm not. Well, as far as I'm aware.
So the first part I looked into is, should kids wear shoes in the first place? And there's a few people that call themselves, podopediatricians. So they're foot doctors for kids.
Seriously sounds like they should be on some sort of watch list.
A podopediatrician.
Who would say that? What are you? I'm
podiatry pediatricians. Podiatrical. I don't know.
Pediatrician. That's the worst.
What? I like the young tributaries that feed into the large Danube and Nile.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but a lot of these guys, it's starting to mount now. It suggests that actually putting your children in shoes might hinder the development of a baby/toddler's feet and ankles. So there might be something there. But I should stress, I actually couldn't find any research about the benefits or the detriments of shoe wearing in toddlers.
Yeah, and
the main benefit's really warmth, I think.
Yeah, warmth and kind of protection, I guess, because humans we've now kind of isolated ourselves from a lot of the problems and hardships that previous generations have had. So wearing
stepping
shoes,
on stuff, that kind of stuff. So I thought maybe it'll have something to do with the snow, something to do with the cold. Maybe that helps boost your immunity.
Yeah.
And I found some research which suggests exposing your feet to extreme cold temperatures can actually help improve circulation. Now, all of these studies are in adults. There are some people who swear by this and spend time walking in the snow because it improves circulation. And there is some evidence to back that up. There's some vasodilation, vasoconstriction, so getting used to that. But it does stress that minimizing your time in that cold weather is important, because if you go too far, you get things like frostbite.
I thought with things like with athletes and ice bars and stuff, I thought the jury isn't settled. They haven't.
No, it's pretty iffy. That's what I say. There's some evidence out there, but it's pretty iffy.
Yeah.
Now the other thing is, kids, especially babies, they have a really hard time regulating their temperatures anyway, so I don't know how beneficial this is for all adults.
It's crazy. Whenever I hold a baby, they're so warm. You're like, aren't you? And you kind of want to get the back of their shirt and pull up their shirt and let some air in, because they're so crazily warm.
Well, that's it. There's very little evidence to suggest that standing in the cold is good for an adult's feet, let alone a fucking child that can't actually control their temperature.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Now, the third part is I found this idea called grounding or earthing. Have you heard of that?
I have. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but earthing is about kind of being connected with the earth and getting kind of like, standing barefoot or laying on the ground, sleeping on the ground, and getting the natural energy or something like that.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. I found a study from 2015 in the Journal of Inflammation Research, and it suggests that walking around barefoot might actually boost your immunity, increase the production of white blood cells, and it can actually reduce the development of tumours and positively influence your inflammation response.
Wow.
Amazing, right? Yeah. Hear me out here. Scientists involved in this research claim it's related to the movement of electrons between you and the Earth, right? So your electrons, you're constantly exchanging electrons, and because the Earth has a sort of slight negative flow, if you lose electrons during the day, it can actually balance out your bioelectrical system, and this can provide a benefit to multiple body systems. Incredible, right? This sounds fascinating, huh?
I've got a feeling
Now,
you...
hear me out. There are actually heaps and heaps of studies in this. I kept looking. I found about 6 distinct studies all pointing to the same stuff. Then when I started looking at the studies, I found that they were all written by about the same 5 people. Now,
wow, these people must be amazing. Why haven't they won a Nobel Prize yet?
Well, I looked a bit further. I thought, maybe it's just a really early science, so there's just not that many people researching it. And I did. I found a review on the science of earthing. So I did a critical review on all of the different papers, and it was written by the same people. So these people were going out, reviewing their own work and producing this review paper. I also found out this review paper was funded by EarthFX Incorporated. EarthFX Incorporated, believe it or not, is partly owned by one of the authors.
No!
Unbelievable, right?
My God.
Unbelievable, right? Incidentally, though, I don't know if this is related, but EarthFX produces a book on the health benefits related to earthing, and they are also selling special earthing bed sheets, which is supposed to reproduce the electrical exchange that it supposedly occurs with barefoot.
God.
Now...
obviously, there's no link there.
Amazing, right? It's
wow. What a coincidence. The very industry you go in is the same area which you're experiencing, and also the same area which you review papers by people who are probably you work with in a similar field, who are your friends, who are helping you out and probably getting a cut. Wow.
Yeah.
What are the odds of all that just falling into place? What a lucky individual.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Far out.
Beautiful.
I really need to go buy that book. No, look, I went and I said, look, I'm going to give him another chance. I'm going to give it a good, hard look over here. I'm going to find evidence of the electron exchange that happens between people and the Earth. And I actually couldn't find any research at all that shows that we might actually suffer from a shortage of electrons, or that earthing can restore an imbalance of electrons that we have from, our day-to-day life. The research just doesn't exist on that stuff.
Oh my God, really? Who would have thunk it, huh?
Amazing, right?
But the thing is, though, that would be very confusing for people who do not have any background or any kind of research skills. So imagine that we didn't get the opportunity to go to university and do what we do.
Honestly, at first I was like, holy shit, there's quite a few papers on this. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same fucking guy.
Yeah. That's the disgusting thing is, they're published in journals?
Yeah, that was the Journal of the Inflammation Response, which, I wouldn't say it's a tier 1 journal, but it's up there, the Journal of Inflammation Research.
Fuck you, Journal of Information Research, for publishing that shit. Yeah. Fuck you right off. There you go.
There might be a paper journal. I didn't go much into that particular journal, but they're publishing a few. I think one of the journals was a real... something like the Journal of Alternative Medicine or something like that.
Oh, God.
Published in, yeah.
Journal of Alternative Medicine. Imagine it'd be so easy to get paper that doesn't work.
Yes. All right, should we move on to the next one?
Let's go.
All right, I found another one my wife sent me, which argues that a blue vein across the nose bridge...
Oh, what?
A blue vein across the nose bridge, so between the eyes, across that little part there, is an indicator of hyperactivity or a sensitivity to sugar. A little blue vein just between your eyes. So if you see that, they suggest, your kid's going to be sensitive to sugar, so make sure you restrict their sugar intake. Now, this idea, I looked into it, and it actually comes from Japanese medicine, way back in the day, ancient Japanese medicine, and they had a name for it called a kanmushi. Or, I apologise to anyone who speaks Japanese, I probably butchered the pronunciation there.
Better than bukkake.
Kanmushi. Okay.
Bukkake.
Now we just sound racist. Apparently it translates to sugar bug, though, and it was interpreted as a sign for restlessness, tantrums, potential attention disorders and things like that. Chinese medicine said it was a sign of a weak spleen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how about that? Now, I went looking for a while for this, and I was only able to find a single paper study on this vein, and I'm still a bit iffy about this. It was published in the Journal of the American Osteopathic College of Dermatology in 2003. Now, the study did come from a group of doctors and professors out of Arizona, and they said that the blue vein across the eyes was more common in children with lighter skin. It's like, well, duh. You know, like, you can see more veins if you've got thinner, whiter skin.
Yeah.
They said it's most likely a consequence of a lack of subcutaneous fat in that area, which is like, duh. So you've got thinner skin and lighter skin, so it's more likely to be able to see, and it usually disappears by the age of 2 anyway. So they said there is a range of causes for its appearance and treatments.
It's pretty much like palm reading, isn't it?
Yeah, back in the day, they used to do bloodletting to try and get it down, and acupuncture to try and remove it as well. But assuming there's no change in the vein, so it's not bulging or anything, this journal basically said there's nothing to worry about. It's just a vein there.
Yeah,
that seems to be
and
a
the thing
bit
is
higher.
as well, like it's like the anti-vax studies and studies like that. It's just a waste of the scientists' time. Like, we know vaccines don't cause autism. We know a whole bunch of stuff that's bullshit, but they need to keep putting these studies out so that people will find and come across them and go, oh, it doesn't. Or to have some evidence to the contrary. I just don't get it.
No, you're turning red, mate. Settle down.
God. It's just frustrating.
Let's say you have a kid and you get all this information. You're going to crack.
Oh, shut up. Fucking kids.
All right, here, I'll bring you in. I'll bring you
go.
in. So
Yeah, cool.
the next one, I'll show you. Basically, it said that eye glow in the photos of a baby are a sign of cancer or a precursor to potential cancer increased risks.
Okay,
so hang on, I'll show you the particular photo.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yep, okay.
So what do you reckon? That photo is a sign
red
of
eye.
cancer.
That's fucking red eye.
That's what I thought. You can cure cancer with Photoshop. How about that?
Yeah, I know, but like it's kind of one of those things where it's like you get red eye all the time. Like amateur photographers always get red eye, and so all it is, it's just like when the camera is just like directly pointed on the same axis. Like the person's looking at the same axis. It's just the reflection of the blood vessels on the retina.
Oh, that's
so
why
it's just
red.
Pointing straight back.
Yeah. What about in like animals and stuff? You know, like
yeah,
dogs with green eyes and yellow
so
eyes?
you know how sometimes you'll see like dogs in in the dark or something like that, and there's a little bit of light, and you see that kind of bluey color.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think cows get it as well. I think
Yeah, my dog's got a big greeny tinge.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bluey kind of greeny tinge. That's actually like because they have like a special kind of reflective layer in the back of their eye, and it's called a tapetum. And it helps them kind of gather light a lot better. That's why like cats and dogs can see much better at nighttime than we can. They've got that layer. It just helps collect light better. It's a double layer that helps kind of reflection of light. And so when you're seeing that colour come back, that's actually that tape. And that's why humans, you see red in flash because you get that big flash of white light. And in dogs and stuff like that, you get the other colours because it's the difference in like the blood vessels and what the layer is there on the retina.
Yeah, okay, and that's why they're better at collecting light and seeing at night.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, now I've got the last little, shall we say, slice of heaven coming off the internet.
Slice of heaven?
It'll make more sense. Basically, this one says that putting a slice of potato in each sock of a sick child while they sleep can help extract the sickness from them.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry,
the fuck is that?
I just get this picture of this kid asleep with a couple of crisps in
imagine
his
how
sock.
embarrassing in his feet. Like, imagine a kid at a sleepover. Jimmy, what are you doing? I'm putting potatoes in my.
Well, according to
socks.
a lot of these home remedies, it works just as well with onions. Okay, so
Oh God, the fucking smelly kid at the fucking sleepover doesn't get invited to the sleepovers anymore because he's got onion in his socks.
well, the evidence, because I wanted my wife to follow through on this. Apparently, the evidence for this is in the morning when you take out the onion or the potato and they're brown. Because it's drawn the sickness out, so they're clearly brown. It's
kind
taking
of like
the toxins
your feet
out.
have oxidized what's there.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Now, I went and I tried to find any studies on putting potatoes in your socks, putting onions in your socks and its relationship to health.
Do not
and
look
there
on
is
your work computer.
Literally zero. Okay,
Of course there's zero.
I'm going to assume this is because the medical community thinks it's a fucking stupid study to do, and it makes no sense to spend any goddamn money on.
So, Dr. Davis, you're looking at your study. I noticed that you wanted a grant for a study on people putting potatoes in their socks and onions in their socks and seeing if it helps them get toxins out of their body. Yes, that's correct. No.
No. Go away.
Go away. Stop wasting funds.
Yeah, that's right. And we will keep your tenure now. Fuck off.
But all it is, it's just I'm assuming it's just the oxidation of it's like when you cut it open.
I assume
an apple,
so. There's literally been no
brown.
fucking studies. Yeah, that's it. There's been no studies. No one's done this study. Now, a lot of people swear by it. They feel better in the morning. Having this on them helps reduce their fever, but when you look at it, it's the same as putting like a cold compressed sort of thing on. So you've got cold potatoes on your feet. Of course it's going to help with your fever.
Yeah.
It's going to cool you down. You can get the same effect with a moist towel on your forehead.
Yeah, but...
Or like a moist bed sheet on your forehead.
The thing is, this is what I say to people who kind of say, well, I took apple cider vinegar and I feel better. And look, I am not saying you don't feel better. And that's one thing that I think is kind of really important that we address, is that when someone says they feel better, I'm not going to turn around and say, you're lying, you don't feel better. I can't tell someone how they feel. All right, if they feel the way they feel. However, I can tell you what works and what doesn't work and what is quite possibly a placebo effect.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Well, of the studies started looking into this, there was a study in the journal Pediatrics from 2005, and they suggested that a lot of these remedies, believe it or not, are more a consequence of culture rather than education. So you could have a doctorate or something like that and still go, this potato in the sock works, because that's what your mum did, that's what your grandma did, that's what your great-grandma did.
Kind of like the flat lemonade. Did you ever get the flat lemonade?
No.
Oh, flat when you're not feeling well, you got
Gotta have some flat lemonade.
You have some flat lemonade. It was just an old wives' tale. Didn't work, but that's just what you had when you were sick.
It could be something like that. Now, because it's so ingrained in cultures, there's a lot of doctors that are now actually taking these sort of ideas on board because it doesn't actually pose a risk to anyone's health. So the doctors are now saying, look, put fucking onions or potatoes in your kid's sock, but if the temperature keeps going up, contact us. And that way it makes the patient or the client feel like the doctor's understanding their perspective.
Smart, yeah.
So the doctor's like, I'm still here to help. You can do your home remedies because the kid's immune system's going to do its thing anyway. The doctor probably doesn't need to be involved.
Especially if it's like a viral infection. It's like, okay, make sure they have plenty of water. Do this. Yeah, you can put potatoes in their socks. That's fine. But if it gets worse, come and see me.
Yeah,
that makes complete sense, and that's actually quite smart. But it's sad that they have to do that.
It is a bit sad, but it seems to be working as well. There was an editorial out of 2013 from treatments in South Africa, people who were receiving alternative medical treatments and subsequently died. 40% of them had consumed too much of herbal remedies and home remedies and things. And that's not saying that the alternative medicine was the direct cause of death, but it probably reduced the likelihood of them seeking out medical assistance or modern medicine in the first place. So it's actually not a bad pathway to go down.
I guess it's sad but it's sad though that doctors have to work with just stubbornness and I understand someone not knowing something and being ignorant about something. That's fine, but it's just when it's like that unwavering kind of no, I know best. A mother knows best. Mm-hmm. I understand as well, and I think we're having this discussion the other day. Parents get really kind of worked up, and they kind of this and that, blah 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 blah. This doctor was terrible, all that type of stuff. But doctors vary in their ability to their job. They're human. It's not like every doctor is the same standard. It's like saying every person who trains with, the Dallas Cowboys is the same in the same position. It's not how it works. It's like saying every teacher's the same. It's like saying every nurse is the same. It's like saying every accountant's the same. There are people who are better at their jobs. There are people
Pretty
who
sure
remember
lawyers are all the same. Heartless fuckers. Probably not the environmental lawyers. They're the only ones that are okay.
Are you sure? Are you sure they're the bad ones? Because there would be bad ones that try and get around the law to cause environmental degradation.
You're right. All lawyers are evil. You're right.
You can't say that. You can't say that.
This is true. I admit it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it more tongue-in-cheek. I still will go to a lawyer if I ever need him. Touch wood, I don't need one, though. But a lot of the things I've talked about have been essentially harmless remedies. But this becomes a problem when you start talking about, say, anti-vaxxers. Some of these alternative pursuits, and these parents, like we said at the beginning, are just trying to do the best for their child, but they don't understand the science. So I think we need to get Nat on to explain her experience making the movie Science Mums and dealing with people like anti-vaxxers.
Well, let's get to it. Get it?
Hey.
Yeah. All right, Nat, let's get. Our next guest is a podcaster, science communicator, and she joins us today to talk about her latest project. Please welcome the ever so lovely producer and director of the documentary Science Mums, Nat Newell. Hey,
Yay.
Nat.
Hey guys, nice to see you again.
I know. How long we know each other for now? Probably a couple of years now, I reckon.
Yeah, it's been.
I don't know about that.
I would say maybe about a year of this online stuff, and we did a few months ago. Us and Dan just talked about a lot of nonsense for like an hour together. And
Oh, that's the best. We
That's
just give
good. Yeah.
shit
That
for an hour.
cold winter morning.
that was really fun.
Okay, so how is Science Mums going? How's the film going? You're nice enough to send us a copy, and we absolutely loved it. Well done.
Good. So, well, I mean, do you have to say that? I don't know if you have to say that. You could just, I guess you could have just told me it was garbage or something.
Oh, you mean we can be honest? No. It was great. It was great. No, it was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And
So I sent it to you, so you guys were able to check it out. The reception and response to it has been really awesome in the past. I guess it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks that it's been out for download online. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was 2 years in the making, really, that I've been running like social media for it and just getting people stoked to eventually see it. And yeah, so it, like it's a slow burn, some of these kinds of projects. Like I love the podcast that I do because every week we are putting out content. It's a work in progress over time. And yeah, other than the people that have been really going crazy at me on Twitter for the past few days, the response has been really good.
yeah, regardless of whatever you do, if you made anti-science mums, you'd probably get then the science mums going at you. So it's a
Who's going to call it anti-science mums, though?
well, have I got a surprise
that's my
for you?
follow-up project. My follow-up project is anti-science moms. This is all a
Well,
charade. I'm really just, yeah.
Well, think about it, you catch both demographics then. So why did you feel the need to make a movie called Science Mums, or Moms, as you guys pronounce over there, and why not Science Parents?
Yeah, I'm a new dad. I feel left out right now.
Oh man, see, like I'm alienating a certain demographic. Yeah. So honestly, like the reality is, I kind of wish that there doesn't need to be a movie that's science-based geared towards any parents. Like I really kind of wish that we lived in more of a critical thinking heavy society rather than one where I felt like this film needs to exist. But the reason is, so I'm a parent myself. I have a almost 3-year-old and a 4.5-year-old, 2 little boys. And so as a parent, but also my professional background is in education. So during my time working with families of young children and then having my own kids, I was just noticing a lot of, stuff that just didn't make sense to me. People who were fixated on only feeding their children an organic non-GMO diet, people who were like questioning whether or not they should vaccinate their children, people who even would ask me, oh, are you vaccinating your kids on schedule? Because there's a lot too soon. And, you know the stuff that people say.
Yeah.
People who, I actually had a person when my 6-month-old was crying one day suggest that I take him to a chiropractor to get that fixed. He was a baby's cry. Yeah. And so there was all of this around me. And I came to a point of wondering, well, are they right? And am I just too relaxed about this stuff? Where's the truth in all this? How are you supposed to be the most okay parent you can be? Help your kids grow successfully, but also keep your own sanity too, with all the noise that's out there.
There's a lot of crap out there as well, isn't there? Becoming a new parent, some of the stuff my wife shows me that she's found about her baby, I'm like, oh my God, how is this out there? Who is sharing this information around?
But it gets to the point where it's dangerous. That's the problem I've got with it. And it becomes an alternative to actual appropriate evidence-based medical treatment. That's where I have the huge problem with the anti-vaxxment. Oh, your child's got this, I'll just give them this because it worked with me. And I noticed that's a common theme throughout your film is kind of addressing the whole anecdotal evidence-based kind of thinking of, well, I know there was a scene there at a rally where one of the science mums and there was another lady on the opposite side were having an argument.
Literally on the opposite side of the fence.
Literally on the opposite side of the fence.
Yes.
And they were going back and forth, and the mum was saying, well, I base my, around, this isn't verbatim, but, I base my thoughts around scientific evidence. And then the lady said, well, I've got my own evidence. I've done my own research. How
she
common
literally
is that?
She literally said, I did my research. She was that trope come to life. And so, yeah, because I was there when that was being filmed, and it was amazing to reflect on that afterwards, that we in the flesh, not just in an internet comment section, we heard somebody say, I did my research. As
so
they're
real, those people.
Like, those people are real. And I think that the sort of anti-GMO, anti-vax, those movements have capitalized on the fact that people love anecdotal evidence. People love those stories, those feel-good stories that come with the anecdotal evidence. Like, if that woman in the film, she's talking about how she said she cured some things in her child through an organic diet. Imagine that story, blowing up on the internet somewhere. Like, you can cure whatever with food because food is medicine, right? That's the whole, like, What the Health and those kind of movies and stuff.
Mantra, isn't it?
They push that, right? So it's compelling, and it happens because, I think that science doesn't always have the feels to go along with it. And it doesn't have, like, facts aren't as compelling to the mom who just wants answers for how to deal with whatever challenge she's facing or whatever. And so I understand where someone like that is coming from, but I can't when it becomes, like you said, dangerous, where people are using anecdotes to not vaccinate their kids.
Yeah, one of the things that, this is probably my favorite part of the film, is where you actually define what a scientific consensus is. I think that is so important that the general population and the public, the layman, understands what a scientific consensus is. There's not a whole bunch of people in the room say, all in favour, say aye, It's a consensus of evidence. And I really, really thought that was a very useful part and a very good piece of science communication, because it's whether it be climate change, vaccines, GMOs, whole range of different things, the consensus is the evidence. It's not a bunch of people going, yeah, I think it's true.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, like, all the people who are on the other sides of these issues, of course they can always, go into Google and find a study or something that someone said somewhere that backs up what they believe. But just because you believe it doesn't mean that it's true, and that it is within the consensus and the evidence. It's that whole idea that science doesn't care what you believe, right? That the consensus is there.
And that's why we love it. That's why I love it. It's like, it's just like, fuck you. I don't give a shit what you hope is true. This is reality. And as I say, I think I said every episode, it's the most honest way of looking at the universe. It's the most truthful way. It's the most moral way of judging what's real and what's not. And I love it.
You do love it. It's kind of scary sometimes. You're crossing that barrier into scientism.
All the pages in my physics textbooks are all stuck together. It's not good. So.
That's okay. So that's what you do. That's how you spend your time doing science. You have a very intimate relationship with science, as you should. You Sci-gasm on the daily. So good job. Like,
that's right. Maybe that's where we got the idea for the name.
I've done my own research. Thank you.
You've done your research.
Oh, Jesus. Look, I'm going to try and bring this back in, Nat. You actually had the science ones you got in where you had neuroscientists, you had legit scientists, and you were talking with the scientific consensus as opposed to the I've done my own research lady. Mm-hmm. Now, because you're a mum, do you have your own battles with this kind of issue? Or for example, my child is sick, so it must be because of this, and I'm going to give them vitamin C or something. How often do you find that maybe you're less inclined to use the science and more inclined to use your mother's intuition?
See, I feel like, okay, I guess for me, and I had this conversation with somebody recently, I'm fortunate to be the daughter of a very, like, rational, evidence-based mom. Like, my mom is a former nurse, and I feel fortunate to have had her, obviously, like, raising me. But then when I had my own kids and I would, talk to her like, oh, I think Zeke's kind of sick, or I think Milo has this. She never really went that, just go buy some, like, homeopathy type of thing, or go buy this, like, placebo-y kind of thing. She just, I think, gave me not the mother's intuition that goes towards the thing that's not going to work, but just either call the doctor or, we're going to ride this out, like with the crying. Like my mom was never going to tell me to take my children to a chiropractor or like any of that stuff. It was, it was more just, call the doctor if you have a question. But so I don't know. I think maybe I'm just fortunate in that I came into it from a place of maybe I feel like an asshole saying, "Oh, my mother's intuition is like." I feel like an asshole right now, and I don't mean to sound like that. I guess feel lucky that my baseline is not to go wooey. Yeah, and so that's why.
Don't worry about sounding like an asshole. We do it every week.
Well, I mean, he talked about his book being stuck together, so we're like, I'm okay.
Yeah, hey, if there's one asshole that you deal with, it's Dan. Okay. We're just kidding. We're just kidding.
So there. All right. So I could sound like an asshole saying I don't give my kids vitamin C. But yeah. So I guess I kind of felt like maybe if I'm not as scared of this stuff, I can try to pay that forward a little.
Yeah. So what are you've mentioned kind of GMOs and vaccines. What are some of the concepts, that scientific concepts that are dealt with in the film?
So GMOs and vaccines are two of the big ones. We deal with some myths surrounding like organic food because the organic industry is really savvy in their marketing, like
booming
with things, where people think that organic means pesticide free. But that's not true. So we bring that up. Organic just means they use organic pesticides. So okay, cool. But it doesn't make your food healthier. An organic potato chip is still a fucking potato chip.
I know that's what we do with homeopathy as well.
Oh, we do. Yeah. Cause homeopathy, and that's one of my favorite parts in the movie where I ask Allison, to give a definition of homeopathy.
She's a neuroscientist.
She's a neuroscientist, and she's like, you mean a serious one? Because homeopathy, I mean, when you talk about it and you're talking about water with memory, essentially,
that's fucking amazing.
It makes no sense, but people are going for that, not just for themselves, but for their children. And we know how dangerous, just doing homeopathy and naturopathy can be. Kids have died because their parents have chosen that. So when you're talking about dangerous things, it's like, homeopathy, it's easy to sort of laugh at what it is. But when you think about people believing it and believing that it's effective, and then they're choosing that for their children, it's just this holy shit, are you kidding me kind of thing. So
we recently had Cara Santa Maria on. She was very much kind of, you meet people, you kind of go to their level and then kind of work with them at that. You don't just write off their idea. But it's so hard when people think water has memory. Yeah. It's so difficult to kind of find some sort of common ground with them. I guess the only common ground you could come with is, and I'm sure you address this in the film, but like it's everyone just wants the same thing, and that's for their kids to be healthy and happy. Yeah. And but when you get some ridiculous ideas, it's really hard to be serious and tolerant. It's so hard.
Yeah, I did enjoy when you got accused of you clearly work for Monsanto or are getting paid by Monsanto.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, in the past, I mean, I guess really since the film was released online, but even a little bit before, just when people knew that this was a thing that was being made, accusations are just there. And I mean, and all the women have received them individually just because they write about these topics and speak about these topics. And then at this point, there's this idea out in the Twitter ether that this idea, I guess, wasn't actually mine, that it was a Monsanto PR type of idea. I mean, where's that money? Because I definitely don't see it. I mean, I don't know. And
but you
also,
did send us a free copy of it, so that was a mistake.
I know, right? I'm giving this thing away, but man, it's like But it's crazy to think that people will go to this conspiratorial thinking of these people must be paid to have these ideas, rather than just think, oh, they have these ideas because science and because they want to speak about science and advocate for science. Like, the fact that people go to corporate conspiracy first that baffles me.
Yeah, and I guess as well, a lot of people confuse, certain evidence-based research with kind of business practice. So they kind of go, oh, this company has done this in the past, whether it be whoever, and they go, that means that everything that comes out and everything else outside that, independent of that company's research, that agrees with that, is corrupted. Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of the problem lies, whether it be climate research, whether it be insurance companies with climate research, whether it be the World Health Organization, or a range of issues, because it's so easy to cry conspiracy theory because you need so little evidence to do so.
Have you ever thought about turning it around and just slamming them with, like, well, clearly you either work for or getting paid by Whole Foods?
Man, what's funny is some of these people that are talking to us, they work for like U.S. Right to Know, like Carrie Gillum or whatever, however you say her name, who wrote just a couple sentences about science moms in her recent book that came out about glyphosate or whatever. I think it's called Whitewash. I don't know. The part about science moms was literal fake news in there. But yeah, I mean, I sometimes I want to be more of a dick to them, but then,
You're too nice. That's the problem. You're too nice.
I think I called somebody a nasty person the other day. And I think
you monster.
But I think I did it. Did I also call someone a dick? I might have. I don't know. But I've started muting people on Twitter because it's just getting ridiculous, because there's only so many times I can be asked who funded your film, and I respond, fucking Kickstarter people, which you go on the Science Moms website, there's a page that has thank yous and everybody's name. So it's pretty transparent. And my other thing too is that if I got some big check from some industry or corporation, I would have said that from the beginning, because I'm not afraid of transparency, which is that doesn't scare me. But then the other thing too is, there's just all these accusations that, I don't know, our ideas or whatever are bought by people. And the reality in that is no, not that this could even happen, but say we wake up tomorrow and vaccines are actually dangerous and GMOs are a terrible health hazard or something. And the body of evidence says that. I'm going to change my mind because I'm going to change my mind with evidence. And these people don't seem to understand that either. That people who think critically will change their minds when presented with new evidence. That we don't just get our ideas bought by big business or something. I can't really get into the mind of the anti-whatever conspiracy theorist, but...
Oh, well, you'll love our new film then.
If you could achieve just one thing from this film, you can't get into their minds, but what would be the one thing you could get from this film and why?
Okay, so the film is not here to change the minds of the people that are so far anti whatever it is, GMO or vaccine. I would like for people who are kind of that movable middle, the people who haven't decided where they stand yet, the people who are on the fence about these issues, I would like them to be able to watch the film. And I'm not looking for a change of mind, after 28 minutes or whatever. But if it can plant some seeds of critical thinking and start some conversations and make people reflect about how they have thought about these issues, and maybe some minds will be changed gradually over time. It's not about an overnight thing, but it's about just spreading the message of science and reason and critical thinking and the fact that these things really matter. And, they really matter for us as individuals, as parents, but also, you know, if we can pass this down to our kids, the fact that we think critically, the fact that we aren't afraid of the world, and that we can think for ourselves, like that's what I want. I want people to, you know, walk away thinking a little bit differently and more critically.
What an answer.
It is. That sounds terrific, doesn't it? All right, Nat, give it a plug. Where can people find Science Mums?
Okay, so you can find it sciencemomsdoc.com. We also have a Facebook page, and you can find me on Twitter at NC Newell. I won't be mean to you probably on Twitter because I just can't. So, you know.
You're not mean to anyone, Nat. Come on.
If you feel like you want someone to be mean to you, write to us on Twitter. We're good at that.
Yeah. Oh, and can I say the name of the podcast that I do too?
Absolutely.
Give a little plug for me and Dan. Okay. So also it's the Science Enthusiast podcast that I do with my buddy Dan.
Awesome.
Listen to it. Maybe.
Nat. So you can catch Nat on the Science Enthusiast podcast, Science Mums. There's the film out now. You can also see the Facebook page. You can follow her on at NC Newell. Thank you for joining us, Nat. What you've done is awesome, and hopefully there's more films that follow.
Yeah, I hope it does really well for you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.